Shalom and welcome to this week's Living Torah. A couple more weeks, Bezrat Hashem, God willing, I'll be heading to Israel. And so much is going on in my mind between now and then, of course, so I'm going to try to stay in these Torah portions. My thanks, first of all, to Gates to Zion over in Columbia, South Carolina. Craig and Jen Odell, been good friends for a long time. And I have to tell you a brief story about what happened. I spoke twice on Shabbat, and after I finished the second session, and the response from folks is just wonderful. Always there, so easy to speak to. It's just like they kind of draw things out of you. But I walked off. Anybody that's been to Gates, to GTZ, I walked around and toward the back, and there was a dad sitting there with two young children. Little boy, probably about 6 or so, a little girl about 4 years old. She is the cutest little thing. She had this little pink dress on, and as I walked by her, now again, she's 4 years old, and she's been, tortured into sitting there listening to me for a couple of hours or so. And as I walked by her, she looked up, gave me this big smile, and did a thumbs up. People ask me, why do I do what I do? Why do I travel like I do? That was worth everything, folks. It was just one of the cutest things that I have ever seen. And you get through to a 4-year-old, I think that's pretty much the anointing. So another thing, though, of course, many of you probably already know this. Miss Batya Wooten passed away last, the 26th of February. Her health has been declining for quite some time now, and I'm in contact with. I'm actually part of the board of Key of David Publishing, and so I was being kept in the loop for a while. The family was asking that it just would not be a real public thing as far as her health decline. But she passed away on February 26th and leaves an incredible legacy. As one person said, those are deep footprints to try to walk in. And if you don't know who Batya is, she is the one who wrote the book many, many years ago. I think in the 80s, the first edition came out of Who is Israel. This month, in the month of March, and this may be extended, I'm not sure. If you go to Key of David Publishing, I'm not sure if it's I think it's .com, but I'm not sure. Just type in Key of David. Any of the books that are sold, they still have, I think, everything in stock. But any of the books that are sold in this month, the proceeds will go to the family to help with expenses in this time. Miss Batya will be buried next to her husband, Angus, in Arlington National Cemetery. I sat down the last morning I was there with Craig and Jen Odell. I had this idea last week that I want to do an interview with them. Well, that was just my plan. And I got there, and on the day before, I left. All of a sudden, Batya has passed away. Well, Craig and Jen have known Batya about as long as I have, and so we sat down that Sunday morning at their breakfast nook, and we talked about Batya. Recorded it, and that is this month's message. It is available on our website. This is normally sent out to our partners, those that support this ministry. But with this one, if anybody that would like to have a copy of this on MP3, all they have to do is send me an email. I'd be glad to send you the link to that. You can share it. You can send it out. It does have the Joint to Hashem tag on the end of it. I would ask you to just leave that on there, but feel free, anyone that would like to send that out. You can put it onto a CD if you'd like, whatever. My copyright law is this: if you're going to copy it right. All right, so that's available on my website. Let's get into the Torah portion of You Are to Order, and this is Exodus chapter 27:20. Through Exodus chapter 30, verse 10. And it begins with, you are to order the people of Israel to bring you pure oil of pounded olives for the light and to keep it burning continually. There's a little problem with that verse that most, that our flesh has is you are to order. Does that really in King James it says you are to command? I guess that's even goes a little bit farther against us. So what does the word in Hebrew actually mean? Is it really that defined? Well, the word is sava, S-A-V-A. It's first found in Genesis chapter 2, verse 16, and it says, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh Elohim gave the person this order: you may freely eat from every tree of the garden except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So this word is tied to the command, which when broken would put mankind into this generational curse of sin. So I kind of am thinking that he's a little serious about this, maybe a lot serious about this. You are to order the people. Now, it does not say that you're to order the priests. It does not say you're to order the Levites. It says you're to order the people, that they are the ones to bring pure olive oil or pure oil of pounded olives. There's so much that we can talk about briefly with olives. Of course, the way that you get olives from a tree. First of all, an olive tree is an evergreen. It does not lose its leaves in the winter. So there is a consistency to its message. It never loses that message. The olives, I was in Israel a number of years ago when we were doing the harvest of the olives. And, for me, I thought, well, you go out there and you pick them and then you put them in the crates and all of these things. No, the way that you harvest olives is you take a stick. You take a net, put it around the bottom, a large net, and then you take a stick and start beating the tree. And whatever olives fall off, those are the ones that are ripe. You can get up into the tree like I did, and you start beating these branches, and the olives start falling off. But then we would put them in these large crates, and into the dolev, which is a larger crate. And the weight of the olives on top of the other olives would actually begin to press the olive oil out, and that is called the first press. It has no mechanical means to this. This is literally just the olives pressing down on one another. But the idea of the people are to do this is very crucial for us to understand. That this is, to me, this is saying that you and I are to always be considering that we are a part of the work of Elohim upon this earth. Okay, to give you a reference here of two different ideas, I've heard people say, well, I'm going to go to church. I'm going to go to congregation. I'm going to go to the restaurant. I'm going to go to the football game, whatever it is. Well, in all of those instances, you're really not involved in anything. You're just going to. Now, we normally don't go to a restaurant and go take our own order. I guess, well, with modern day kiosks, you start doing this. But you don't go in the back and help cook yet. You don't bring your food out to your own table. You don't go back and wash the dishes. No, you're not serving. You're there to be served. So you're not really taking part of anything. Go and watch a football game or a baseball game or whatever it is. You're going to. Your only involvement is maybe you bought to support your team, you bought a shirt, you bought, if it's kosher, a hot dog, you bought something, to drink, you bought the ticket. But in the end, you're probably not going to get down on the field with the team and take part in the game. You are literally a participant. And so this thing of going to is not biblical. The people were not to just to come to the tabernacle and it's like, okay, hey family, let's load up the kids today in the strollers, the wagon, or whatever. We're going to go from the back of the camp and we're going to take a little vacation. We're going to go and stand in the gate of the tabernacle, and we're going to watch them do bring the firewood in. We're going to watch them as they clean out the ashes. We're going to watch them as they put slaughter the animal and put it on the altar, and then we're going to watch them as they go into the holy place. No, you were to bring your own animal. You are to be a part of this. Now, I know this is a concept that I've taught about in so many different ways. I'm just coming at a different angle because we should consider ourselves, as the Hebrews were doing here, as you are to be part of the service unto Yah. In just a few short days, God willing, I'm going to be heading to Israel. Once again, I'm going to have quite a good sum of money in my backpack, in my pocket, wherever I can put it at the time. I will also have access to an account while I'm there that I can get more out if I need to. That's one of the things I'm doing right now, is trying to look at what we have to work with, the budgeting. Where can this money be given to the best places? If I happen to see a couple of IDF soldiers that are standing in line for pizza, what's the chances that I'm going to get break in front of the line nicely and pay for their pizza? It's really, really, it'll happen. As long as I see a couple of soldiers, that's going to happen. I love buying pizza for IDF soldiers. Call it a hobby if you want to. If I find IDF soldiers sitting down having dinner, I'm likely to go over and buy their meal. If I find somebody in a store, I don't know I don't know where this is going. The point that I'm making is this: this is your money. This is what you have done. This is what you have sent. Thank you. It's humbling that you are entrusting me to give that to the right places. I had a friend of mine that I was playing golf the other day with, and he's interested in Israel. And he came to me, he says, I just found out something really tragic. I've been giving for 20 years, I've been giving to this institution of International Fellowship of Christian Jews. He said, but my sister went online and found out that this woman that's on the television all the time, and I said the name, has an income package of $460,000 a year. I said, well, that's less than what her dad was making. But he says, I refuse to give to that because of all that's going on. So, I said, listen, I'd be glad to take care of this. He said, I trust you. I'm going to go to my bank and tell them to start sending the check to you every month. This is a great honor, but it's about all of us being a part of. We're not going to something. We are a part of something. And that part of, it says that you are to keep that lamp burning continually, constantly. Now, in the next verses, and I actually asked Moshe Kempinski about this one time, because it seems that it's contradicting itself. It says, and keep it burning from evening until morning before Yud Vave. This is a permanent regulation through all the generations of the people of Israel. So is it continual, or is it from evening to morning? And the answer there, I believe, in my conversation with Moshe, was this, that the answer would be yes. Continual, but it's not just, think this one through with me. It is not just while the priests are in the service of the tabernacle during the day. Okay, you go to work. Maybe you own a store. You go in, you turn the lights on. There's activity. Employees show up. Hopefully customers show up. It comes time for closing. You get the customers out, the employees out. You do whatever you have to do. You lock up. What do? You turn the light out. So it is a time of pause regarding the activity that is in that building, that is in that store. Not so with the tabernacle. Because remember, according to Hebrews chapter 8, I'm going to get to that in just a few moments, that this is a pattern, this is, we could say it this way, an earthly realm model of a heavenly realm reality. And that heavenly realm reality of the tabernacle is not limited to the hours of daylight to dusk. The work of redemption is a 24-hour process. So though the priests may have walked out, they have gone home to be with their families or whatever they're doing, but the work of redemption is a continual around the clock. There's not a time in which, redemption is going to take a pause. No. The blood of the sacrifice of Messiah takes no vacation. There is not a time off. It's not between these hours. It's not between 11 and 12 on Sunday morning or whatever it may be, okay? The blood of redemption is something that is around the clock, is continual. And so we need to be, I believe this is speaking to me that we are to be conscious of his presence, conscious of his redemption in our lives at all times. And also that people are watching us at all times. I grew up in a system in which, I'm not passing judgment here. If I sound like it, there may be some judgment involved, but it's not for me to judge. But I grew up in a system in which, you walked into God's house. In the day that I was in church, a Baptist church, you did not run in the sanctuary. You did not climb on the chairs. You didn't play games. This was a holy place. Well, that became to some people to where, I shouldn't do things in there, but when I walk out, then I guess it's okay for me to do. No, the same lifestyle that we have inside of whatever building it may be. I'm using the word church because of what I grew up in, but in our congregational settings, in our for us with Life Assembly, we meet in our basement, and so that is a place that is set apart. Well, Kathy and I try to the best of our ability to, since that is where we are, though it's got a refrigerator, we're eating there too, with the congregation, but there is a sense of a set apart nature to that space. But that set apart nature should actually be going through our whole home. Again, the light, the lamp, is to be continually burning, not just through part of the day. Now, chapter 28 starts talking about the garments, and two specific things. I'm not going to go through and read them all, but it ends up being the shoulder pieces and the breastplate. Both of these are very ornate in their engraving, in the representation. both of them are speaking of the tribes. So each one of them has the tribes engraved on them. One is on the shoulders, the other is on the breastplate, which tells us the duty, the job calling, the job description of what the priests are. And that is that the priests, the Levites, are to carry the tribes upon their heart. They're to carry the tribes, helping to carry the burden of life. So in a pastoral role, what I see as a pastoral role, I'm not a Levite, but the pastoral role is a Levitical calling, I believe, and that is to hold people very close to my heart, to care for them at a level that is, as best I can, show the same kind of love to them that the Almighty desires to show. The other thing is that the tribes are to be upon the shoulders, which is the burden. So when someone has an issue in their life, and they call me and say, Mike, I'd like you to pray with us about this. I've just had a family that went through a very difficult trial. In fact, this happened during the same few days as Batia's passing. A very close friend of mine, very close friends, the Frank family up in Montana. Some of them, the mom and dad, but Meg Frank, the mom, passed away this past week. They had texted me, they had messaged me and asked Kathy and I to pray with them, and we still do for the shalom and comfort. Meg, to give I spent more time on Batia at the beginning, but at the same time, Meg was from watching her, her family. They've been with me in congregations, in meetings. Cal and Meg went with us to Israel, and they were servants. And Meg, a wonderful wife, wonderful mom, grandmother of, I think, 20 grandchildren, and she will be dearly missed. And also a lover of Israel. Her love for Israel, just part of her. And so my condolences to that family also. All right, moving on. But this is if you find yourself not just, somebody asks you to pray for them and you feel there's a burden of that. That's part of that Levitical calling that we're walking in, of sharing one another's burdens, of holding people close to our heart. And if we go over to the book of Hebrews, and we're going to see once again this verse that I alluded to a little while ago of the tabernacle in chapter 8 of Hebrews, and this is, to me, this is one of the most fascinating sections of Scripture that there is. It says in chapter 8, I'm going to start at verse 1. Here's the whole point, okay? In summary, here's the whole point of what I've been saying. We do have just such a high priest as has been described. And he does sit at the right hand of the Almighty in heaven. Get this, there he serves in the holy place. That is, in the true tent of meeting, the one erected not by human beings, but by Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. I mean, how much clearer can we say? And this does not mean that there is goat skins and gold and silver and earthly realm materials that are in that. I believe that the earthly realm materials would not even come close to what the original is. And so these materials that are used in this earthly realm tabernacle are precious. They're beautiful. but they're nothing compared to what is in that heavenly realm. And then the one who is, it says, is seated at the right hand is also one that is serving. And so I've always kind of considered here the possibility of when the garments were being made for Aaron, and we will read that they were consecrated, and Aaron was consecrated, and these garments were placed upon him. I've always kind of imagined this, that did he stand there with those garments thinking, I feel like I'm wearing somebody else's clothes. You ever done that? Somebody loaned you a jacket, and well, it fits pretty good, but it's somebody else's. And so I actually went to over to Blairsville, Georgia yesterday. There was they put in a memorial at the city park for the 1.5 million children that were killed in the Shoah. And a friend of mine from a number of years ago, he passed away, his wife gave me his leather jacket. And so it fits pretty good. I put this leather jacket on, and the whole time I'm just kind of considering the person of who he is, or who he was upon this earth. So was Aaron doing the same thing? Was he thinking to himself, I know I'm wearing this, it was made for me, but I feel like it was made for somebody else? Was Aaron and Yeshua upon this earth, were they the same exact size? Those are just things that I think about. Don't ask you that you have to. But in Hebrews chapter 4, going back, it says, therefore, since we have in verse 14, since we have a great Kohen Hagadol, who has passed through the highest heaven, Yeshua the Son of Elohim, let us hold firmly to what we acknowledge as true. For we do not have a Kohen Gadol unable to empathize with our weaknesses, since in every respect he was tempted just as we are, the only difference being that he did not sin. Now, notice in here that it says that we do not have a high priest, and I actually talked about this at GTZ this past weekend a little bit. We do not have a high priest that cannot empathize. Okay? The word doesn't say sympathize. The difference between sympathize and empathize is this. In having sympathy for someone, you can kind of feel for them, but not enter into the feelings that they have. A good friend of mine recently, his mother passed away. There were those that can sympathize. But if you've never had a parent that has passed away, you can sympathize, but you can't empathize. Okay? You have someone, a loved one that's sick, a loved one that's passed away. If you have not lived that, you may be able to sympathize. I could put it this way of, you feel sorry for them, but you cannot empathize with them unless you have gone through something of a similar status. So with Yeshua, this is the Father's way. This continues to intrigue me every time I talk about it, that the creator of the universe was having an in-body experience. Why? Why did he need to go through that? Well, okay, we can talk about redemption, the shedding of his blood, all that's fine. But there's another aspect of this. He lived for, we believe, about 33 years. He was a child. He was a teenager. He was a young adult. He was a businessman. He was, in a way, a pastor. In a way, he had to provide for his family. All of these things that you and I go through in our own lives. But he was not just sitting up in the heavens sympathizing. I'll give you an example. When Josephus, I believe, records that Yosef the stepfather of Yeshua, he died when Yeshua was about 19, which means he knows what it's like to lose a loved one. He knows what it's like to mourn at the side of a bed over a loved one. He knows what it's like to cry with his family over the loss of someone. He is not just in a place that he can sympathize with us. He is in a place that he can empathize with us. Now, chapter 29 talks about the offerings. And you get into the rams and all of these things that are going on here. And I'm not going to go into the details of these. What I do want to do is go over to Romans again. Romans chapter 12, not Hebrews, Romans. So what are all these things about? What are these rams about? What is the instructions of how to clean them, of what to do with each part? I think that in the millennium, when Messiah himself is teaching us the words of the Torah, that we're going to sit there in amazement of how each aspect of this sacrifice had something specific that was pointing to him. But with it on the surface level here, we see that a person was to bring their sacrifice. But here's where we are able to enter into another level of understanding. I'm not saying they didn't understand this, but because we are on this side of the sacrifice of Yeshua, we can now put a little bit more into it. And in Romans chapter 12, it says, I exhort you, therefore, brothers, in view of Elohim's mercies, you offer yourselves as a sacrifice, living set apart to Elohim. This will please him. It is your reasonable service unto you. It is, David Stern says, logical temple worship, and I just don't really like those words. So I believe that King James says your reasonable service unto him. And the verses go on from there. So these sacrifices are to be a reminder of that animal giving its life, totally and completely giving that life unto its purpose, which was, in a way, service and worship of Yud-Heh-Vaveh. And we are to do the same. We are to present ourselves as a living sacrifice. You know, it's one thing people have said through the years, well, I'd die for Messiah. Okay, fine, whatever. Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. We're not there, so we're not really able to figure that one out until we get there. I find what appears to be the harder thing is living on a daily basis. You know, continuing, as Shaul, Paul would say, that which I desire to do, I don't do. That which I don't desire to do, I do. Completely dealing with this, oh wretched man that I am, who is able to save me. And then he goes on and says, I thank Elohim through Messiah Yeshua. This day-by-day life is something that is at times, maybe it's not for you, but there's times that, it's like you don't get a vacation. I remember talking to some friends of mine in Israel. They were actually here in the States, and they were, their dietary restrictions are different than mine. Not judging what they're doing, they're not judging what I'm doing. But I remember them saying to me, we don't get a vacation from being Jewish. That just struck me. That I do know other Israelis that, have left Israel, gone to Las Vegas, and, they're having a great time at the buffet. Well, that lifestyle is not one that I would want or would want to follow. But for them, though I may not have adapted that level of dietary restrictions in my own life, let me tell you, I really respected what they were saying, because what they were doing is saying that our lives are the same no matter where we are. Ask ourselves a question: is my life the same if I'm in that building or I'm somewhere else? There should be no difference in our lives, no matter where we are. Now, in verse 20 or 39, it says you are to the one lamb you are to offer in the morning, and the other lamb at dusk. Well, this is the basis. This verse is the basis for my reciting the Shema twice a day at 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Now, I know there's some that would do that at 9, at 12, and at 3. Okay, that's, if you want to do it more than that, that's fine. But this is what I do on a daily basis. My phone is set to a silent alarm. I don't, I'm not going to be standing in the middle of Lowe's yet and say, okay, attention Kmart shoppers, all right? Instead of the Kmart blue light special, we're going to have everybody stop and recite the Shema. It's probably not, people are probably not going to understand what you're doing. But no matter where I am at 9 o'clock in the morning, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I in some way will, maybe a little bit under my breath at times, or out loud, or I will, find a spot, but I recite the Shema. And this is the way that I have put into my own life of offering a morning and evening sacrifice. Going on to chapter 30 is you are to make an altar on which to burn incense, make it of acacia wood. Goes on and tells the dimensions and everything about this. What is about this altar of acacia wood, the altar of incense? Let's go over to the book of Revelation. Revelation chapter 5, we'll go to verse 8. It says, when he took the scroll, the 4 living beings and the 24 elders fell down in front of the Lamb. Each one held a harp and golden bowls filled with pieces of incense, which are the prayers of Elohim's people, and they sang a new song. Goes on over in Revelation chapter 8, starting in verse 3, another angel came and stood at the altar with a gold incense bowl. And he was given a large quantity of incense to add to the prayers of all Elohim's people on the gold altar in front of the throne. The smoke of the incense went up with the prayers of Elohim's people from the hand of the angel before Elohim. Now, may have read that over and over again, but have we ever considered that our prayers are being held? That our prayers are, we live in a society today that you upload things to the cloud. Now, you can, in my understanding, you can go online and you can delete something from the cloud. It's not going anywhere, all right? It's still going to be there, and somebody is able to get it, and somebody is able to use it, whatever. I'm not going to go into the conspiracies here, but that's an example to us of our prayers. So even if we may pass away from this earthly realm, as I've had 2 close friends do in the past week, their prayers are still being held. Their prayers are still active in this earthly realm. Though their physical bodies may not be active in this physical realm, the prayers, I've said this before, that your death does not negate your prayers. Your death does not negate what has been spoken over you. Look at the account of Elijah and Elisha. Elisha is given a double portion of the anointing of Elijah. So if we count the miracles that were brought forth through Elijah, and then we look at those that were brought forth through Elisha, well, Elisha's one short. So obviously, he must have sinned somewhere in his life. Somewhere, he got off track and no. The prophecy that was spoken over Elisha, did not depend on Elisha being spiritually in this earthly realm. So when he was buried, there was the account of a battle and someone was thrown in and his body touched the bones of Elisha and was brought back to life. Pretty cool. So this is about our prayers being put into we could literally, into the cloud, okay? Into the heavenly realm, and those prayers are constant. Those prayers are continual, and in the book of Revelation, we see how those prayers are being put together and are brought forth as a sweet aroma in the nostrils of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. What does that mean exactly? I'm not real sure. But if you ever sat down with someone and you just spend time with them, you spend time talking with them, a spouse, a child, or somebody that you meet, you spend time talking with them, that conversation, if it's the right kind of conversation, should be, we could say, a sweet aroma. And so our desire to speak to him, our desire to spend time with him, our desire to put our petitions, our requests, our praise, our worship unto him is like a sweet aroma. Okay, I've got 2 Torah portions left before I leave for Israel. Again, you can go online if you would like in this time period, and I have the 3 tabernacle teachings that are on my website. You can go to jointohashem.org and click on those links. I will be linking part 2 and part 3 up during the time that I'm in Israel. I just don't have really the time while I'm there to be able to do all the programming that I do on a weekly basis. Again, if you would like to hear the interview or the conversation that I did with Craig and Jan Odell, I will warn you, get the Kleenex out. You'll probably, we laughed, we cried, which was in Batya style, no doubt in Batya style. We told some stories about Miss Batya, one of them about Craig and his brand new F-150 truck. And if you know Batya Wooten, she was a little bit vertically challenged, and so her getting out of that truck ended up being quite a place of laughter for both her and Craig. If you'd like that, go to our website, jointohashem.org. For those that support us, it will be sent out in MP3 or CD. Your support is appreciated, but regarding this message, this interview, this sit down with Craig and Jan, it is not a requirement. There's no strings attached. You will not receive emails later on saying, "Hey, could you send money for what I sent you?" That's not happening. All right. So Shavua Tov, Shabbat. I guess Shabbat Shalom's faster, is closer, right? So it should be Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov. Have a blessed, prosperous week. Yeah. As I told you, I'm, part of me's already somewhere over the Atlantic, or I don't know where, maybe landing in France about now, which is where I got to go through. So have a blessed, prosperous week. Bezrat Hashem. We'll see you again next week. And until then, be strong.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.